All right, Shalom. Giving all praises, glory, and honors unto Yahweh. By Hashem Yahushua, by Hashem Kakadash. Double honors to the apostles, elder bishops of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the 144,000, rest of the hopeful elect out there. This is your brother, the priest, Tazawan from GMS Atlanta. Back with another edifying video. I just want to speak on the change and shift in world technology, pretty much as I always do, leading up to the Motb and how things are shaping up for what's to come. Because Esau has an agenda. The rulers of this world, these so-called white people, which are the Edomites according to the Bible, also known as the wicked, or the Illuminati, or the international bankers, whatever, you know them as, right? They're Esau, they're the Edomites, and they have a plan for the world, and that is to basically place all the other nations, the dark nations, or even their own people, into slavery, like a digital prison, to where they know everything about them. Everything is linked to this digital system, and which they have full control of. And they want to put a microchip, a biometric implant, under the skin and in the foreheads of all their citizens around the world. But they're going to be above that. They're going to be the so-called God elites of this world, the gods of this world. And that's their plan, which is ultimately, when you read the Bible and prophecy, is they want to take the birthright back from Jacob, which are the Israelites, the so-called black Spaniards and Native Americans, and those scattered around the world that are descended from them, that may even look like the other nations. The Israelite Gentiles, they are to be subject underneath Esau in this digital world order that they're creating, which seems, benevolent. It seems like it's a good thing, but when they start to show their horns and their wickedness, which is in these laws and legislations, that's when you're going to realize that submitting to these devils is a big no-no. Which is why we warn here at GMS, we warn you about the coming Motb, the implant. And I'm also doing these videos on the infrastructure that is being set up before that takes place. So it says DPI is the new global tech bet, which DPI stands for Digital Public Infrastructure. There's an infrastructure, there is a system being set up for the public and the citizens of the world that will be digital, which will be controlled by AI and the plans of the elites behind the scenes. DPI is the new global tech bet, and these are the 5 core motivations for adoption, researchers say. So these are the reasons why they're going to introduce this. It says digital public infrastructure is the new global tech bet, except everyone is betting on something different. That is, according to David Eves, an associate professor of digital government and a co-deputy director of University College London's Institute for Innovation and Public Purpose, and Beatrice Vasconcelos, a policy fellow at the same institute as Eves. The authors have identified 5 distinct objectives that shape the DPI agenda as they map programs and initiatives in 210 countries. Okay? 210 countries. That's basically the whole world. Now, when you look it up and you search, right, how many countries in the world? Now, some might be broken down into regions, right? Well, let's see what it comes up with. Right, so it says there are 195 countries in the world, including 193 United Nations member states and 2 non-member observer states, Vatican City and Palestine. Okay? So what they have here, right, is it says 210, right, which could include, different islands and things like that. I'm not sure how they break it down or add it up, but that's pretty much the whole world. So they want the whole world covered in digital identity, a digital public, a digital biometric infrastructure. The 5 major motivations powering DPI adoption include fiscal resilience, so dealing with money, how money will be distributed, public services, whether you get food stamps, whether you get government assistance, local transportation, right? Economic development, national sovereignty, and competition and rent extraction. How are you going to live, right? Now, one of the more recent famous quotes, I believe, was from Carl Schwab. He said that you will own nothing and be happy. Speaking about developing smart cities and basically turning the world digital. It says digging in. Fiscal resilience applies to how digital systems can be used to reduce wasteful government spending, preventing fraud and welfare programs, right? So, hey, you know how Jake gets down. I'll sell you $300 for worth of food stamps. All that's going to be cut out when they introduce Motb, man, this digital system. Okay? It says an improved tax collection efforts. Why do you think here in the U.S. they're getting rid of members of the IRS? Why do you think they put this guy Elon Musk in charge of the Department of Government Efficiency? It's all about setting this digital public infrastructure up, which will be tied to the implant. Okay? Everything has to be cleaned up, and then they're going to introduce AI and robots and all these different automations and things, which to them is efficient. The authors caution that while savings have been enjoyed by Estonia's government, for example, other countries are doing this for an example, as test runs. It says the greater efficiency and lower access costs can lead to increasing costs. This arises from greater demand and frequency of transactions. So they're going to have to regulate all that, that's why they want to introduce AI, even in the government. Public services is self-explanatory, with the authors noting that the expanded state capacity can prove particularly beneficial during crises, such as C-19, where countries with interoperable public data systems reach 3 times more people with emergency aid than those without, according to a 2019 World Bank report. So they'll be able to deal with crises better. For economic development, DPI can help to realize more inclusive economies, simplifying identity verification processes and lowering access costs. Now, what does this mean? This means that even your homeless will be able to get a digital ID and be identified. So nobody's going to be exempt. They're all going to have to get a digital ID. Okay? They use India for this. Okay? It says, in addition, DPI is gaining more and more interest for international economic integration, with the Mercosur Digital Citizen Initiative cited, which enables access to services across 5 South American countries. Okay? On national sovereignty, we can see this very clearly in the case of the European Union, which is a part of the beast, Revelation 13, with its commission announcing 1.3 billion or 1.4 billion US dollars, 1.3 billion euros investment in technologies, such as the EU Digital Identity Wallet. Your implant, the Motb, would be tied to the Digital Identity Wallet. Okay? It's just they're setting this infrastructure up first. It says that are strategically important for the future of the continent. Okay? It says, finally, competition and rent extraction refers to the concerns that some governments have over how a few large digital platforms control key infrastructure and can extract excessive rents. All right, so basically, rent is excessive, we'll control it. You know what? Y'all don't have to worry about it. You won't own nothing anyway. It all ties together. This is what we've been talking about for the longest, when we bring up what these elites are doing behind the scenes and what they put in the forefront. At these, summit meetings, these global meetings together with these different countries. These are the types of initiatives and things that they talk about and that they're actually starting to put in place. It says, now, the authors hone in on Brazil's instant payment system, PIX, as a successful case study. So that means they've already been testing these things out in other countries, and it's proven to be successful. The only thing they need now is another crisis, and then they can introduce the implant, right? Which, looking at what's going on with these tariffs and U.S. and China being major players and trade back and forth, that could lead to a global economic meltdown, and that could lead for that, which we believe is leading to eventually adoption of digital currency, right? I just mentioned about the EU digital wallet, okay? So, we're definitely coming into the time of the Motb being mandated. It says, where new entrants can enter the field, making use of shared digital components and standards. At the heart of the final core point, DPI, Digital Public Infrastructure, is about ensuring healthy competition so consumers and businesses have a fair ecosystem. Right, small and great, rich and poor. If you want to buy, if you want to sell, you're going to have to get the mark, the Motb. You're going to have to be tied into the system. Okay? And then it mentions about India's digital transformation, a guide for international audiences. It says India is rising up the ranks as its DPI systems such as Aadhaar, UPI, and DigiLocker become admired and studied around the world. But they got to work out the kinks. They say everything is not perfect. So we're about to see a major, as I said, and I say that now, a major shift in global economics and financial systems. This is part of the image of the beast, right? So let's go to the prophecy, Revelation 13. 13, let me get to the point. 15. It says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. That image is becoming a digital image, a digital public infrastructure, where these countries, the EU, America, and then they'll be interoperable with the BRICS nations like Russia, China, India, right? Because they're behind the scenes, they're all in this together, even with these wars. It's all theater of war. Right? But they're going to be connected with the beast. They're going to have the digital currency. And they're going to all introduce a biometric implant. And if you want to buy or sell, if you want to be a consumer, or if you want to have a business, you got to be tied in to the image of the beast, right? This system, okay? And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And they're literally going to put people even with the ground. They're going to unalive people if you don't comply with their coming digital world and their agenda. They're claiming that you're a T risk, a risk to society, a menace to society, for whatever reason they come up with, but that's why the scripture says that we have to fight for this truth until death. And the Lord, Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh, will fight for his elect. Verse 16, and he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand, the Motb, or in their foreheads, is all going to be tied to this digital image, this digital system. Okay? No matter your status, if you rich and you got a business, if you poor and you're a consumer, or whatever status, you're going to have to be tied to the Motb system, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the Motb, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. You got to be registered in the system. Here's wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast. For it is the number of a man. That's Esau's number, all right, which is tied to the UPC code and the barcode. You have two long lines. Look at every barcode. You got two long lines at the ends, two long bars in the middle, and two long bars at the other end. That adds up to, that's 2 3s, which add up to 6, 6, and 6. And his number is 603 score and 6. And everybody's going to be registered into this system. Whether you're a business and you're tied into the system, or whether you're a consumer and you have the implant under your skin, it's going to have its own unique PIN number, a digital number. And then when you look at the characters like stigma and 603 score and 6, it represents being pricked or implanted, under the skin with what? With the device. So GMS has always been right about the Motb, and we're seeing that develop, dealing with this digital public infrastructure that different countries around the world are adopting, And I got more articles to go into on the digital ID and in different countries over there in Europe, some in Asia and so forth. So I'll speak on that in another video. So with that, I hope this was edifying. All praises goes to Yahweh B'Ashem Yahushua B'Ashem Kakwadash. Shalom.